Hey guys, Watch here. Welcome back to ROM hacking. Today we are going to be fixing the hiding of the thief, specifically in the dungeon. So I've got my thief hidden here, and let me show you what I mean. I'm going to go into the dungeon. We got some enemies. Just switch to the thief. Let's go. Bam! 12 damage. So you know right away you're doing 12 damage, and this is unmodded, by the way. So we're getting the bonus for the thief. The backstab hide bonus. But look, I did that twice. I did 2 attacks. I'm still hidden. So it doesn't unhide you in the dungeon. As long as you're hidden, you will remain hidden for the remainder of the dungeon. There's another small problem, is that if you go in the dungeon unhidden, you are unable to hide. So you can't enter the hidden state, and if you are in the hidden state, you remain hidden for the entire dungeon. And that's just too overpowered. So we need to fix that shit. Now, originally I thought this was going to be a pretty easy one to figure out, because we already know from reverse engineering the melee, we know the bit that is responsible for being hidden. And here is the place in the character sheet. These 4 bytes are the flags 1. I've called it flags 1. So it's 32 bits, 32 flags, and this full 4 hex at the very top, that is the one for hiding. So all I got to do is basically observe that, see where it is set, see where it is unset. I'll look at that in tactical, and that'll give me something to figure out, okay, so how do I do that again in dungeon? So I'm going to set a watch point here, watching the 4 bytes starting at this address here, and we're also going to print the value of that address. When we hit this watch point, we're going to print what program counter we were at when we hit the watch point and what the value of that address is, and then we're going to continue, so we're not going to break. And so let's see, where does it actually get set? So right now it is currently set, and let's continue emulation. And what you're going to see is it is constantly being set and unset. It's toggling this, it's doing a whole bunch of stuff, it's jumping around. And so right away we see the situation isn't as simple as we had hoped it would be. It's not just a simple flag that gets statically set and then unset when something happens. It's constantly fluctuating. So this might not even be the base, the single source of truth for this value. This might be some derived cached flags, and then there's somewhere else where it's actually setting that. And so this turned out to be a lot more annoying than I had originally hoped. Here are the notes that I sort of took trying to track all this stuff down. I'm going to try to condense, several hours of experimentation down into a few minutes here. But I found several addresses where it's writing to the flags register, and I also found it's writing to 6C, which is the scratch memory that is also used by the bonus for gauntlets, which makes sense because much like the old gauntlets, being hidden gives you a +4 bonus to your accuracy roll. And what I eventually found another place in the character sheet that is associated with being hidden. That is at the offset 5C. So these 2 bytes here that we see, this 0A indicates hiding. And this 7-7 here acts as both a flag, saying that the hiding job is active, and it's also a countdown timer. So as time progresses, this value counts down. Let's see if we can get it to count down. Hopefully I won't get attacked. So you see it's 7-7 right now. Let's wait. 7-6, it just counted down. So it takes a long time to count down, but when this counts down to 0, the thief is going to unhide. This is actually, from what I can tell from reverse engineering the code that runs over this, this is an array of 5 jobs. Every job has 2 bytes. The job index and the countdown timer for the job. And these relate, as far as I can tell, they relate to statuses. So when you get a status like blindness, dark or light, or you get a status like hidden, it's going to put a value into this array, and it's going to have a countdown. And on a timer, periodically it's going to run through all of these, and it is going to process them. It's going to run scripts to process whatever happens for those timers. So I think it might be in here, the function do tick jobs. So you can see in D3 we load the offset 5C, and in D2 we're going to load a count, so it's 4. and that's going to tick down, and in total, I think it's going to run 5 times. So you see, we're loading the first value in those 2 bytes. For hiding, that would be A into Z0, and then we shift that left by 16, and that gets us an index into this array of scripts. So it uses that thing to look into our scripts. It's going to run script process after it loads that. And that's the same script processing that we see when we're doing like melee attacking or whatever. And then we can see it decrements D2, the count, and loops back again. So it's going to run 5 times. There are 5 total jobs that can be put in those slots. And so we can see here that these job slots are working together with the flags register in order to express what status you have. So the flags register is what is referenced when you're doing things like combat, but the jobs thing controls the flag. So if I just unset a flag, it'll be set automatically again as soon as I do the next tick of job processing. So if you want to unhide someone, you got to remove their status from the jobs and then unset the flags here. So that's basically what I understood, but the code is all spread out everywhere, and it took a while to figure out even that this jobs system existed in the first place. Now there's 2 parts to what I have to do here. First, I have to re-enable the ability to hide in the dungeon. So I got to figure out, okay, so where is the hide action happening in tactical, and then why is that not happening in dungeon? So here's hide action. This is a target for I think the script processing. So it loads this address from a table and then jumps here during script processing. And you see here, this is the patched code, by the way. There's 3 no-ops. I erased some code that was in here. So what was that code? Well, the address is 14844. Let's open the unpatched version here. And we'll go to 14844. And we see here, we are testing some global. And if that global is set, if it's not 0, we jump right to the end. We don't do anything. We skip all this logic. All right. And what I found from experimentation, this global, let's just look at FFFFA93B. So if we go to that address in our patched version, we see that I have named it dungeon mode flag. So this flag is set if you're in dungeon mode, and it's unset if you're out of the dungeon. So this is a very important global to discover, because a lot of things are controlled by this. And we found that it just entirely skips hiding if you're in dungeon. That's how they disabled it. So all I did was I erased those instructions, and now you can hide in the dungeon. So that's part 1. And so what I wanted to do is, okay, so I found where they were disabling that functionality, and I removed their disable. Can I do the same for unhiding? Is there a place where they're checking dungeon and skipping some logic that would unhide when you attack? And I couldn't find it. I looked over. I spent hours studying for it and trying to figure out where everything was connected. I just couldn't do it. So I decided, okay, you know what I'm going to do? Fuck it. I'm just going to hack it in there. I'm going to add my own hooks and unhide the thief when they attacked in dungeon mode. How do you do that? Well, when you do an attack, you should just unset the job and unset the flag. But here's the problem. If you unset it right when you do the attack, it still needs that flag there. If you hit the enemy, it has to refer to that to know that it needs to double the damage for backstab. So you can't unset it immediately. You have to unset it after you do the hit. But if they miss, you'll never hit that branch of the code. So you actually have to hook 2 places. You have to hook if they miss, or hook after you've calculated the damage for backstab. So if we go to melee accuracy, we find where the miss happens. And so here's what happens during the miss. And we are going to jump to our first thunk, hook dungeon, miss, remove hidden. And now what we're going to do in this hook is we are going to check to see if we are in dungeon mode and if we are hidden. If so, we remove the hidden flag, and we also remove the tick job. So in the character sheet, I added another thing in here, tick job. So a tick job is just 2 bytes, the action index and then the flag, this is actually the counter, right? Maybe I should name it counter, but I name it flag, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so I got an array of 5 tick jobs here, and I've noticed that the hidden job always occupies the first slot, but that might not always be the case. So I should probably actually search through all the jobs and find the one that is the hide job. But right now I'm assuming it's in the first slot, and I'm just setting its flag, its counter to 0. And then I have to do this code, the melee hit flag equal to 0, because that's what the original code was doing. That's how I got the space to install my hook. So I set the hit flag to 0. I also have to set D0 to 0, and I can do that by just returning 0. So that's the first case. If you miss, we have this hook here. And this is a nice hook to have. I could also add other logic into this later on if I need to. Stuff that happens if you miss. But anyways, let's try melee damage. Alright, so down here is where we check for statuses. Sleep. That's not the one. Yeah, so here we're checking for backstab. First we check if they're the thief. If not, we skip. And then we are going to, the rest of the logic has been transplanted into my second hook. Hook, backstab, damage, dungeon, unhide. And again, we check if they're hidden. If so, we remove hidden, we remove the job, and we double the damage and return that damage. And that's it, 2 hooks and we're done. And I only make this active in dungeon mode because it's already working in tactical mode and I don't want to mess up whatever they got there. So I don't touch it, but in dungeon mode, I just kind of manually hack on my own state changes because I can't figure out how to get theirs to work in their flow, their existing flow. Couldn't figure it out, so I just made my own flow. Alright, so we're back with our patched version of the ROM, and I don't want to be in here. I want to be where there are more people. I want to be where the people are. Alright, here's the people. So we hide. We missed it. Oh, now we're hidden. Beautiful. Okay, so we can hide in the dungeon, and if I do an attack, why is it not letting me switch my character? Here we go. There we go. I got a hit, and it removed my status there. Let me see if I can hide again. Can you just hide right in front of him? But that's normal. That's what you normally do in the game. And there you go. You do your hit, and you're done. So, it is now working as expected. You can't just hide infinitely in the dungeon and get double damage. So that makes the thief a little less OP. I'm super over leveled for this dungeon anyways, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, that is an important fix. And what we learned is this whole job system here, which I didn't have any inkling that this existed. But this allows me to see a little bit more about how this whole job system and how it interacts with the script system that we've sort of learned about tangentially. And yeah, so that's good stuff. That's the #1 thing I wanted to fix in this version. There's still a few more things to go. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click the like button. Helps a lot. And I will see you again with some more ROM hacking, Warriors of the Eternal Sun.